Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. We're fresh off a Packer victory. Join Ryan and I tonight as we break down that game and look forward to what hopefully is a redemption tour in Philadelphia. So grab your Lake Monster beer and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Vikings Happy Hour, where we mix our favorite beverage and talk of your Minnesota Vikings. Skol!
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. My name is Matt Anderson, and like every week here on this show, we are sponsored by Lake Monster Brewing in St. Paul, Minnesota. If you're in the Twin Cities area listening to this or watching this, make sure you head out there, have some great beers, and enjoy what is left of late summer, early fall before it gets too cold out there. Though they do have heating lamps for you to sit out on the patio a little while longer if you'd like. Joined again this week by my co-host Ryan Ortega. Ryan, what's up, man? You were at this game on Sunday.
I was. Yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of energy. My voice is finally getting back after a couple days of being pretty harsh there and it's not good for work because I'm a recruiter, so I spent a lot of time on the phone talking to people, and yeah, it was a little rough, but yeah, doing well. Excited to do this tonight, just because a lot of excitement, a lot of positivity. I've seen some negativity on Twitter over the last couple days. Just people always find something to complain about. And Dave, what did you say they call those people?
Is coined by my former partners, Ted Glover and Drew, that they call them ESAT Nation. ESAT stands for everything sucks all the time. And they're wrong this time because it doesn't suck. Enjoy the victory. Beating Green Bay at any time, whether we're good, bad, or indifferent, is always a wonderful thing.
Yeah, enjoy it, and we'll talk more about that, but before we get into it, can you tell us a little bit about like the vibe of the stadium? I mean, it's the first game of the season under Kevin O'Connell. Ryan, what was it like being in that stadium?
At least for me and around where I was at, which I sit like on the end zone, on one of the end zone sides, it was just, again, there's just like a renewed energy in the air. I don't know if that's necessarily KOC, if that's just a new year, or what have you.
A little bit longer to drink before the game.
Yeah, that was nice, and that was probably had a little bit to do with it. I definitely did a little tailgating with my neighbor Troy, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I was optimistic, which going into that first game last year against Seattle at home, I didn't think that this team was going to be as great as it was, and that's very evident on our predictions and how often I did pick against us, and our record kind of reflected that, right? Where this year I just came in with a lot of energy, a lot of optimism, and then watching KOC on the sidelines, you can just tell he had a lot of energy, which I think was awesome. And it was, for every Packer game I've been to, that was the least amount of Packer fans I'd seen there. Now, it was still way more than there should have been, but it seemed like there was a lot more Vikings fans. But I did get tricked once. I got up to go grab a beer, and I heard just this roar, and I was like, and I knew it was third down. So I was like, all right, because obviously what shows up on the TVs is like, I don't know, 5 seconds behind or whatever. And I'm like, all right, let's go. And all of a sudden I saw that, it was a sack. That was when Kirk got sacked on that second drive. I'm like, oh, son of a, But, outside, and it was too loud for my liking, being that was all Packer fans cheering. So, but overall, again, electric. Energy was high. A lot of high fives all around. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we are like you said, we're gonna pump the positivity on this show tonight. There's a lot to be proud of Sunday's performance, but before we quite get to that, I didn't introduce Dave, and I apologize, Dave. How are you? How was the final score on Sunday? And what were your initial takeaways from Sunday's big win?
The final score was Tanishka joined me and Flip, and we had an absolute blast. It was a good time. We were celebrating. My impressions were, I'm quite happy. The offensive line is progressing, and it is already better than last year, even covering up for our problem at center. And
chill, Dave.
The way they KOC schemed everything, especially to get Justin Jefferson open, was a thing of beauty. I expect more of that. And when the next team, be it possibly the Eagles, try to shut that down, that just opens up Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne and Cooker and everybody else wide open to take advantage of it. And I still think Justin Jefferson will get his due, even if they do that. Then the biggest and most pleasant surprise was the defense, right? Yeah, there was a few times that they looked a little rusty. Patrick Peterson tripping over his feet. Thank God, Green Bay drafted
got bailed out
Williamson's son. And but they held them to 7 points.
Yeah,
that hadn't been done since 2019.
It was a very, very impressive performance by the defense, I thought. And I don't know if you guys watch Pat McAfee's show at all, but he does have Aaron Rodgers on there every Tuesday. And Rodgers was on there yesterday, giving a lot of praise to that Vikings defense, specifically Harrison Smith. He said that Harrison Smith was really flying around the ball on Sunday, and I mean, he did come up with an interception. And if you want to watch that breakdown, by the way, I'm only saying this because I literally just spent before this show watching it, but they have on they have on Vikings.com Kevin O'Connell pretty much breaking down three plays from Sunday's game, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's no wonder they went with him for head coach. He teaches so easily when he's talking about those plays, the responsibilities. So I would strongly recommend to go watch those. I forgot where I was going to go with this, but anyway,
that Harrison was back there and he was frustrating Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers would have to wait to drop back before he could read what sort of coverage Harrison was in. It was disguised that long, and he still made the wrong choice and got picked off.
Well, I think that's a testament though to the front four, right? Like Zadarius Smith, Danielle Hunter, Dalvin Tomlinson, all those guys had a really, really strong day. And again, I'm referring back to Pat McAfee's show with Rodgers, but Rodgers said that they only really truly blitzed like 3 times that game. That was just all natural pressure with that defensive line, which is a night and day difference from what we saw from this team a year ago. So, yeah, just a great performance by the Vikings defense, and we'll talk more about what they can do to hopefully improve or help stop Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles later in the show. But Ryan, I want to toss it to you. I mean, I've been at Viking games before where I've seen some pretty amazing performances by our players. Most notably, I think, in my opinion, was Adrian Peterson's 296 game versus the Chargers back in the day. But
you were there?
You were there for yeah.
Wow.
I was
were
there
you?
too. That was my first Vikings game ever. Yeah. I was like,
there we go.
I think I was on like the 45-yard line. My buddy got tickets and brought me. I was like, all right, let's go. And obviously, AP at the time was like one of my favorite players ever because of Oklahoma ties.
Of course.
It was a very special game for me.
We're gonna. By the way, Dave, we should probably get like some sort of chime every time that Ryan mentions Oklahoma. We just ding it and then just have like a tally mark in the corner. But anyway, back to the question I was going to ask you. You were there for Jefferson's fantastic performance. I mean, I can't imagine what it looked like at the game, but on TV, he was all over the field and just wide open, like nobody within 10 yards of him. So what was that like to witness that? Uh, just read that comment. What was it like to watch that performance from Justin Jefferson, who arguably is the best in the NFL?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch just the craftiness of what he was doing. I remember specifically watching the long touchdown play that he had, where he just again there's nobody around him, and I'm one of those like I get really weird during football games, so I'm sitting there and I watch Kirk go back. I'm like, all right, he's open as soon as I see it, right? And I said it so early there, and Brooke's like, "Who's open?" I'm like, "Jefferson. He's going across the field," and Kirk saw it obviously, big touchdown play, right? And it was just so fun to kind of watch again how he was getting open. But part of that was Justin Jefferson. Part of that was just
Mm-hmm.
there were certain plays where he just outmaneuvered the defender, or he made a spectacular catch like that jump ball that Cousins gave him, right? Which again, going back to what I've been talking about for years with Cousins is you got to take those chances. And
Yeah.
not all the time in the past he would take those chances. Maybe KOC's given that green light or whatever. He took the chance, one-on-one coverage, jump ball, and it was underthrown a little bit, and Jefferson made it work, right? So
Yeah.
like that's what we're talking about when we say we want Kirk to be more aggressive. That's what we mean by that. But part of that too is just scheme, like Dave was talking about earlier, and like you've mentioned, Matt, is how they designed the route, and that route specifically where they brought I can't remember exactly who, I think it was KJ, just straight up the field to take the safety up with him. And then you had the shallow crosser by the tight end, and then he came up behind it, cleared that whole wide open space. Cousins didn't even need to be accurate there. He just had to get in that space, and Jefferson was wide open. It didn't matter. So
Yeah.
seeing those kind of things are just so much fun, and especially live when you can literally watch the all 22 in person right there. It
Mm-hmm.
was truly something special, and you can just feel the energy from the crowd, and he was just
Yeah.
feeling it. He was feeling it. They had showed him on the jumbotron, and he was showing off his grills and stuff. What I think he does this thing right here. And again, it was just, and then everyone goes nuts, and then the gritties and all that stuff. It's a whole new environment right now.
Well, and you mentioned it while talking about Justin Jefferson, and especially when you were like pointing out, like, oh my gosh, he's open. Kirk did such a good job on Sunday in anticipating his throws to his receivers. And not only that, and I made a tweet about it, but his pocket presence and just his ability to feel that pressure. We've seen it sporadically from Kirk Cousins in the past, and I'm not going to sit here tonight and tout him as this brand new quarterback now that's just everything in the past is different. I'm not saying that at all, but I think he deserves credit for Sunday. He played within the scheme that Kevin O'Connell set up for him. He was confident. Um, he was reading through his progressions. He was anticipating throws. He was taking chances, like you said. Um, and to come out of that game on Sunday, like the Vikings did, where it wasn't like a nail biter between the Packers, like they put in Jordan Love at the end of the game. Like we
Right.
kicked their ass, and to
Woo!
come out of that with a new coach, a little bit of swagger from Kirk in the offense and even the defense. I mean, I'm pumped up just sitting here talking about it. I could relive that game on Sunday. I wish I could relive it every week, honestly.
Well,
And
now we got
hopefully
to
we
calm
will
down
again.
just a little, because, and then
Hey,
Packer fans will start saying that this is our Super Bowl and all that crap. Like, but no, I agree with you. I think Kirk did a phenomenal job. Now, I don't want to disagree. Disagree is not the right word. You, me, and Miles had a side conversation about this the other day. Um, I don't think we saw anything new from Kirk per se. Like you said, pocket
yeah,
awareness
yeah,
was better, and I think he's gotten better every year with his pocket presence. But more so his delivery is always consistent when the scheme calls for it. You know what I mean? Like if the scheme works the way that it's supposed to, and the play calls work the way that they're supposed to, Kirk's a phenomenal quarterback, and it's very evident
mhm,
because he does put up good stats every year. The thing that was different to me was, again, and I keep going back to this word, was his energy. Like you can tell
Yes.
even he was fired up and he was playing looser and he was playing with a little bit more swagger. If he's got that dad swag going, right? Like he was even
Like
he
the
like
plaid
had
His
shirt
little
after
polo
the
shirt.
game.
yeah, the Patagonia shirt. Yeah. So like all of that to say, like there's a culture change. I don't think we saw a new Kirk, but I think we saw a Kirk that's fitting in with the culture that he fits in with, which
Absolutely.
is going to show more confidence, show more leadership. But again, he can make those plays under Mike Zimmer too, but he wasn't having fun doing it, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't allowed
I
to be
think
maybe
he
the
was
leader
having fun.
he is now. Yeah, he was having a lot of fun.
Dave, you scared me for a second. You disappeared off the screen. I thought you were leaving us, and I was going to toss you the final,
No,
other takeaways section of
I realized my
of the
fan was
recap.
going on and it bleeds over. So
Oh, well, so before we shift over then to talk about the Vikings versus Philadelphia on Monday Night Football this coming weekend, any other takeaways from you, Dave, about Sunday's performance? I'm a little surprised I haven't heard about the offensive line.
I did break it down. Yes, I have broken it down before. Ed Ingram had a little struggles when it came to pass blocking, but he got better as the game progressed. And he was going against one of the best defensive tackles in the league, right? Now, how Green Bay rushes is going to be different than how the Eagles rush. Green Bay uses a lot of stunts and a lot of moves. What the Eagles are known for is power. They're going to try to bull rush. I think Ed Ingram's going to stop that dead as a doornail. Ed Ingram's not the one I worry about with that type of rush. But what we saw on Sunday was that the left side with Darisaw and Ezra Cleveland, and Ezra had a fantastic game, was superb when it came to pass blocking. And the right side with Ingram, who we worried about, was he athletic enough? And he proved on Sunday, oh, yes, he is, plus the mean streak. And O'Neal, their run blocking was fantastic. So with a right-handed quarterback, you want the best protection on the left and you want the best running on the right. And that's what we've got. And that will make a huge difference all season long, because we'll be able to run the ball when we want to run the ball like we did Sunday, and Dalvin Cook got his quiet 90 yards rushing and over 100 yards total, and even Alexander Madison had a good showing. They both averaged, I think it was 5.5 yards, something like that per carry.
Yeah, I think it was like 4.5, yeah.
Okay. But it was, I like what I saw, and I know it's only going to get better. And that warms my heart. Good old line play we haven't had in a long time.
It's funny, Dave, that you mentioned Dalvin Cook. Again, being live at the game, you're not sitting there looking at the stats or anything. You're just watching the game and all that. And so when I looked up the stats after the game and saw that he had 90, I was flabbergasted, because it didn't. Obviously,
you think it was more?
No, I thought it was less. I could have sworn he had like 40 yards. Like I had no
quiet
idea.
But efficient.
Very
quiet
very
but efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very surprised. And to look at that stat line, and then I did come home. I think it was Monday. Between like calls and stuff, I was kind of flipping through our offensive plays, and he was making hard cuts and getting extra yards after contact. And he was doing his thing. It completely got overshadowed by Justin Jefferson and all that he did. So, the whole crowd was focusing on that and not so much on the run game. But he had a very productive game, and Madison too.
Yeah. I want to go back quick to Dave's offensive line and then address a comment here. But you mentioned Ezra Cleveland. I saw one clip, and I know you both will love this because Ryan likes his players to be dogs. You know what I'm talking about? So there was a play where Ezra, I think, was helping out Bradbury, and he felt, that Bradbury either had it handled or whatever. And Ezra just went looking for more work. Like who can I put on their ass? And I think he went out to the left side with Darrisaw and just absolutely bodied this defensive lineman. And so I saw that play and I was like, I know Dave is somewhere smiling after seeing that.
I was.
The comment I wanted to address though was Mary talking about just aggressive football, and I wasn't going to bring this up, but just someone brought it up in the comments, so we'll talk about it quick. Adam Thielen after the game was very complimentary of Kevin O'Connell and his aggressive nature in the game. I guess, do you guys have any thoughts on that? Because in the past, I mean, when we've watched previous, or just Mike Zimmer in the past, 7 years, he hadn't been as aggressive, and I think of one key point is, right before halftime with just like a minute to go. In the past, we're probably running that ball and just trying to get to halftime with a lead, but we stayed aggressive and we scored a touchdown. So any thoughts on the aggressive nature of Kevin O'Connell and his play calling and just kind of how he handled the tempo of the game?
Yeah. I mean, I think he handled it wonderfully, right? I mean, I think he was calculated in terms of when he was going to be aggressive and when he wasn't, and taking points and not going for it or going for it and getting more points, which ended up happening on the first drive. What I felt was and hold on, I'm losing the thought here, but what I felt was really strong about the play calling that he had was, again, relatively calculated, but relatively aggressive. But what you see out of that is just like the overall philosophy of this team is just to let's go, let's move forward, let's go. And sometimes that is just taking points because that's going to allow you to be a little bit more aggressive the next time potentially. And where I was going to go with that initially was when Green Bay scored that touchdown, and was it 20-7? I think at that point in time, or something like that. You kind of had that feeling. You can tell the crowd maybe a little bit had that feeling of, oh, here we go again.
A little PTSD.
But you kind of felt it a little bit, but you're sitting there like, oh, look at him just go out there and he's hucking the ball again. Like typically Zimmer would have just said, all right, let's run the ball, let's grind the clock, let's ball control. And KOC is like, no, we're going to go. And again, we only end up getting a field goal out of the next drive. But again, it's just that mentality of, okay, let's go put them away. Let's not try to lean on our defense so much. Like, let's help our defense out so they can remain aggressive, because they had that opportunity getting that 7-0 lead, and they could pin their ears back once it got to like 17-0. They were able to kind of pin their ears back and made Rodgers a life of living hell. Yeah.
It was fun. It was a fun performance to watch. And we've now celebrated, and much like the NFL players and the coaches and whatnot, it's time to
hold on. Ryan, what sort of mood did he make Rodgers in? You're muted.
No, I'm not.
I don't know where you're going with this, Dave.
Oh my gosh.
Go. For those listening, Dave just threw a picture up on the screen here. Fantastic. We love that face.
It's not my photo. I enhanced it using a technique that brings out the lines and details, and it shows Aaron Rodgers more than just a little bit pissed off.
Oh yeah. I don't know when this exactly happened, but I would imagine it happened somewhere around the time when he tried to throw a block in Zadarius Smith and Zadarius laid him out.
Actually, he laughed and jaw-jacked on that one, and that was the happiest I saw him. So, but he was frustrated from the get-go. He was frustrated, and it was a wonderful thing. We liked that.
Well, when you throw an absolute perfect dime to your highly touted second-round receiver and he drops it for a 75-yard touchdown, I'd be pretty pissed too.
After Patrick,
I mean, I get mad at my son when he drops the ball like that, so I can't imagine when you're a professional athlete.
But I wanted to show that. wide.
No, I appreciate it. You can always interrupt on some pictures like that. That's fantastic. So, like we said, pumped about the victory on Sunday over the Packers, but much like in the NFL, it's time to move on to the next game. It's a week-to-week league. Um, Nobody cares about what you did last week. It's on to the next. So, um, let's talk about it. It's our first time back in Philly since that daunting game where we lost 38-7 in the NFC Championship. And so, will there be a redemption tour this weekend? I guess it's to be determined, but it's also on Monday Night Football on the road. Kevin O'Connell's first time on primetime. Um, Eagles fresh off. The score is probably a little bit closer than the game actually was, but they're fresh off a victory over Detroit, um, where they started off a little rocky, and they really kind of picked it up. And we'll kind of break down some concerns and matchups to watch here. But Ryan, what are you looking forward to or for Monday night's game?
Yeah, I want to see if this offensive scheme can continue to trick these teams. Now we just went against one of
Mm-hmm.
the better secondaries in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers, and Eagles secondary isn't as strong. Now they still have some quality players on the back end there, so I'm not trying to trash them. They got Darius Slay, phenomenal player. They just picked up Chauncey Gardner.
That's right, Dave. Or Ted, thank you.
Chauncey, whatever his last name, two last names, Gardner something. They just picked him up, right? And again, they got some players back there that can play.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see if we can still scheme Justin Jefferson open, or are they going to be so hyper focused on him that it's going to give a lot of opportunity to Thielen, Osborne, Munt / Irv Smith, whoever gets more play time. That was one of the big surprises. Is Irv Smith he didn't get many snaps, but I know he's come back from injury. So, but Munt handled it well. I think Munt came in and played well last week. So, and then obviously, the big elephant in the room is Jalen Reagor. Are we going to give him an opportunity to say, hey, you guys messed up for trading me away, right? I'm not saying that that's likely going to happen. He's still new on this team. He's learning the playbook. But who knows? Maybe he can, he can set us up for a good offensive play with a big punt return, or maybe he does get in for a couple plays here and there. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking for on a more positive note. On a more negative note, can our run defense, which was really the only somewhat suspect thing from last week. I know we had the big goal line stand, which was great, but the touchdown did come on the run. I think A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones both ran for high yards per attempts. And that's Eagles calling card. I mean, they're going to run. You got Hurts, who I think had like 17 rushes last week, 13 to Sanders. I think Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell each had a couple on there. So, I mean, they did rush the ball quite a bit, and they rushed really well. So, and again, I don't want to bring the past up. Traditionally, old Vikings would struggle against rushing quarterbacks. Again, this is a new system, new play calling, new everything. So I'm not going to lean on that anymore. It's the only time I'll mention it. But Jalen Hurts does provide issues, because even though Deshaun in our group chat is going to go and trash on his accuracy issues, he can throw the ball. He can throw the ball pretty well, and he runs the ball phenomenally. And he's not the type of runner like a Kyler Murray, who will scramble and get out and just slide. No, he can break tackles, and he can make people miss and really Allen. Dominate. Yeah, much more of a Josh Allen type runner without probably the arm talent that Josh Allen has, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see how we, I felt like the game plan on last Sunday was to really take away the pass as much as we could. Bring the rushers, make Aaron Rodgers try to beat us on the ground, basically, or run the ball. Where I think we're going to have to reverse that game plan this time and probably lean a little bit on our corners to be a little bit more sufficient one-on-one. And they do have good receivers out there with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins. So I mean, they got some good players back there. So and Dallas Goedert at tight end. So
I think I think you took almost all of my points there, because that was going to be my biggest concern for the weekend. I feel confident about the offense, like building on what they had or what they did this past week. Where my concern comes is the defense, and can they stay disciplined enough? Playing a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts, regardless of if you think he has, great arm talent or not, is very, very difficult because they can extend the plays either by themselves or on the run or in the Eagles. I feel like people are kind of sleeping on the Eagles in some senses, but they're loaded with talent. Like, you listed off a bunch of guys there, but they have a three-headed monster in the backfield with Gainwell, Scott, and Sanders, who they'll just ride the hot hand of whoever wants to get going. But I think all three of them scored touchdowns last week. A.J. Brown, just brought over from Tennessee this past week, was phenomenal. I watched, some of the highlights just to kind of to freshen up here, and he was just catching everything. And he was just slip sliding all around these guys, and maybe that's more on Detroit in their lack of discipline. But I just think he is really that good. And then Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith. I mean, they have so many weapons, and so I think the real test this week will be for the Vikings defense, and can they stay disciplined, keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket, and not allow him to extend plays? Because I think when Rodgers tried to extend plays, we closed in pretty quick on him last week, and either forced incompletions, and we just didn't let Rodgers really extend the plays, which he's also pretty good at. But Jalen Hurts, I'm a little bit more nervous for. So I'll be curious to see how they respond coming after
Yeah.
a big win.
Yeah, you really got to force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball and beat you through the air. If you can do that, we will have an opportunity. But again, that will be a challenge for our young cornerback room outside of Patrick Peterson, right? And gosh, I really wish Andrew Booth was healthy, because he would be a good matchup for a AJ Brown, because they're both big, physical people. Where Dantzler's more nimble. Not saying he's can't handle that physicality, but he's more nimble. Patrick Peterson is getting older, and he again also is a little bit more nimble in his later years, I'm sure, right? So having the term you used for me earlier, dog, right? Having that dog cornerback to be able to line up against an AJ Brown and allow Dantzler or Peterson to handle Devonta Smith would probably be in our best interest. But since he's hurt, he hasn't gotten the reps because he's been injured. I don't see that happening this week.
I think a big win for the Vikings heading into this game is, you never want to see players get hurt, but I think, is it Derek Barnett? Did he tear his ACL last week? And so he's out for the season, and that's that'll help the Vikings. But I was trying to remember his name all day, and now, of course, when Jordan Davis, that's the first round pick they just took this year, correct?
Right.
He was a one-man wrecking crew last weekend in Detroit. Even though DeAndre Swift did go off for quite a few yards and looked pretty electric, I hope he can stay healthy, because he's just fun from a football perspective. But Bradbury has his work cut out for him this weekend, and I think it'll take a lot of. I mean, we could say that probably every week, but probably more so again this weekend. And I really think it's going to be on the guard play to kind of help keep that pressure away from Kirk, because the Philadelphia corners are also no slouches. They have Bradbury. They have not Garrett Bradbury. I forget his first name, but James Bradbury. They have, oh my gosh, I'm just blanking on the whole roster. I have it right here. Yep, Darius Slay. Gardner Johnson they just traded for, so they have a pretty decent secondary. So if pressure gets on Kirk, and our receivers can't quite break out of their routes and find an opening, then it could be chaotic. But on the other hand, I guess we did see DeAndre Swift kind of gash the Eagles last week, and maybe this is Dalvin Cook's week, for all we know. But Any other things that
and
you
here's the
guys?
thing though too is
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, he kind of lit them up too, right? I think he had like 80 some yards and a touchdown on quite a few catches. So I mean, here's the thing is I'm not going to sit here and try to say that the Eagles defense isn't good because they are. I
They
think
are
they have a lot of
fantastic.
talent.
Well,
They
maybe
have
not
a lot of
fantastic.
talent, I should say, but they did also let up, what was it, 35 points against the Lions. So
Yes.
so you kind of take it in, and that was first game of the year. So I understand there's going to be some rust and whatnot that we had as well, right? But to say that this defense is better than the Packers defense is wrong. The Packers defense is significantly better in my opinion, from a pass rush perspective, from a secondary perspective. Both of their linebacker play is just kind of right? So I think that there's going to be an opportunity for us to continue to showcase this offense, and then we just need to be able to stop that run. If we can stop that run, I think we have an opportunity, like a very good opportunity. But I did think that this was the harder matchup of the two. Going into the year, I was like, okay, I think Packers are beatable. I actually felt confident. I picked us to win last week. Eagles are going to be a tougher match. I think they're going to be a tougher match for us schematically, from what our team does well. But I do think that there's an opportunity for us to win.
I want to address Skol TY Cats 84. Said Spy Hurts was seen. I think Seen's hurt.
He should be back this week.
Playing this
Should
week.
he be back?
I think he's playing this weekend.
If we do use a spy, and I've thought of that too. One of the disappointments from last Sunday was Hicks. Hicks didn't move into the flat on the left side as well as I'd hoped, and that was a weak point we had last week. But if we use a spy, generally a lot of times it's a linebacker, a fast linebacker. And rather than seeing who's coming off an injury, I'd like to see Brian Asamoah, if they employ a spy, be the one out there. Because as soon as he sees Hurts run for a hole or the outside, that boy flies. He flies straight to the ball. And I think that would be the answer there, if they choose to go that way. It's all up to Donatel, how he plans to scheme this. And how much pressure they're getting from the inside and the outside on the pass rush. Are they containing? All that goes into it. If Hurts becomes a problem, then they may hold off on the spy until he becomes a problem. It's going to be fluid. Last week was fluid. And we talked about the aggressiveness of Kevin O'Connell on the offense. One of the post games I heard with the players, whatever, they dialed it back in the second half. Yes, they stayed aggressive and scored more points, but he didn't pull any more tricks out of his bag. They kept it rather generic because they were still beating. You don't need to show anything else. And he didn't need to show anything else. What he just did was just touch the very top of his bag of tricks last week. There's still more to come. I think that's the case both on the offense, especially on the offense, and the defense yet. But I do like this matchup because the Eagles are a quality team. It could be a preview of a playoff matchup later in the season. I do think the Eagles are the ones that are now in command of their division because I don't have faith in Washington. And with Dallas losing Dak, I think it's theirs to lose. But it's going to be an interesting game. It's not going to be super easy, but the Vikings.
I want to address quick Motown's comments here. So he had said that I may be wrong. The fact that the Eagle secondary is trash. Again, the team let up 35 points last week. So I don't know, and I didn't watch, frame by frame. It was more
on the ground though.
But it seemed a lot of it was on the ground. I know that Jamal Williams had a couple punch-in touchdowns, and DeAndre Swift ran all over the field. I just remember he had like a 60-yard gain like early in the first quarter. Their secondary, again, they might be. I don't know 100%. They have quality players. Darius Slay is a good quality cornerback. James Bradbury, he was obviously traded away from the Giants for little to nothing, or maybe he was even cut. I can't remember. He must have been cut because no, he must have been traded. But either way, he has shown to be a high quality player. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, again, high quality player for at least for the Saints. I don't know how well he did last week. So they got the players, I guess I should say. So we'll see how well the defense coordinator can use that talent to scheme up a good scheme against this Vikings offense. And then the second comment is, what has Hurts done? I mean,
Oh boy,
he brought his team to the playoffs last year. He's one of the highest rushing quarterbacks in the league since he's joined the league. And he didn't even play for most of that first year because Wentz was playing. And yeah, so like he's a high quality player just from that perspective. Is he a great NFL quarterback? Probably not. But what he can do is make defensive coordinators' lives hell because of the versatility that he has, and the nature of how he runs the ball is much different than like a Kyler Murray, like I mentioned earlier. He's physical. He's like a Josh Allen, where they will literally run a power option for him. And for him to just run up and plow over a guy and have that ability to just do that over and over and over again, and then still hand the ball off and not know which way it's going to go, because like there's so many options you can do with him, and he can throw the ball. He's not the best thrower in the world. His completion percentage is never going to be tops of the league, but with the talent that he has to throw to, he doesn't have to be the most, like, again, it's kind of the Case Keenum effect, right? You don't have to be the highest accurate quarterback when you have Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen to throw to in 2017. Is the case that's going to be for Jalen Hurts. You have Goddard, you have A.J. Brown, you have Devonta Smith, you have talent around you to work with. So,
yeah, I would expect to just two comments. I would expect to see a lot of screens, a lot of RPOs, and like Ryan said, they design runs, especially down in the red zone. If you go back and look at last week's game, there was a play that they designed for Jalen Hurts to kind of scramble outside, and he's not running out of bounds when contact comes. He's lowering his shoulder and he's trying to drive for the end zone. So we're going to have to bring a little bit of a physicality to our defense this week in order to kind of put him at bay. The other thing I was going to bring up is you talked about Lewis Cine. It's been brought up on this show before, especially by the guest last week, Arif Hassan. But the Vikings are looking to play some three safety looks, and I think that we likely will see that this week against Philadelphia. So look for that to potentially confuse Jalen Smith. And in addition, you probably don't want to do it all game, but you could probably put a Cam Bynum or a Lewis Cine against A.J. Brown if needed. Lewis Cine has a little bit more physicality to him than Cam Bynum, but Cam Bynum last week was also flying around. So I don't know. I'm excited to see because to your point, Dave, I think they clearly did dial back with the lead that they had, and they didn't have to show all the tricks. So I think they have a few more up their sleeves, including some in those three safety looks. So it is bound to be a fun game.
I love Dave's comment of Asamoah, because why not get a premium talent on the field when you can? But also he does have experience just playing and practicing against him at their time together at OU. So,
all right, let's recap here for a second. So we've previewed the game. It's time for the lightning round, where I give a series of overs and unders and buy sells, and then we'll round the show out with predictions. Two notes. The first one is let's recap last week. So last week was Kirk Cousins over or under 281 passing yards. Ryan and Arif both chose the over.
I think it was just
under
shy, right?
277. Yep.
Yeah,
just shy.
Yep.
The second over under was Aaron Rodgers with one interception. Both of you said he would do that, and he did. And the other one, which I find really funny, and I'll tell you why in a second, but Dalvin Cook, 100 all-purpose yards. And you guys both picked the over, and he did do that. But what I prefaced last week with the all-purpose yards is in Dalvin Cook's averages against Green Bay, he averages 108 all-purpose yards. What do you think he got last week versus Green Bay?
108.
Dead on, 108. So you did get that one. You were 2 of 3 last week on your over-unders, and everybody was 1-0 on their predictions for the Vikings beating the Packers. So that's a good start as we head in to this week's lightning round.
Speaking of good starts, I did want to acknowledge that Niner Sickness has joined us tonight. You've seen his comments pop up.
Oh,
He's
there
a
we
good
go.
friend. He does the 49ers version of what we do, and our hearts go out to him after that loss to the weather in the swamp that was Chicago last week.
Yeah, you guys were the better team.
For Trey Lance. We're all cheering for Trey Lance, Minnesota kid. So obviously we want him to do well. And my fantasy team, well, I only have him on one guillotine league, so I just need him to do okay.
Yes, I agree. You should, if you want, you should go over and check Niner Sickness's podcast, and we're rooting for you. Kind of. I don't know if I want to see you guys in the playoffs.
I'd rather not see them in the playoffs. So
yeah,
they're a good team. So.
The other thing I was going to mention quick is something that we're going to try to do this year on Vikings Happy Hour. Last year it was achieved because we had Arif Hassan as a live guest, but every week we're going to try and get a media member to give us their prediction, and we have a surprise for you guys at the end of the show. Our second media member to give their prediction on this Monday Night Football schedule. But let's start the lightning round. Hit the fun music, which kind of didn't work last week at Lake Monster, but I think it was just too loud.
Oh, gotta find it.
And if you're here in the chat, by the way, really appreciate you guys viewing. Feel free to spam the comments with what you think for these lightning round questions. So we'll start here with you, Ryan, on the over-under. Danielle Hunter, 1.5 sacks, over or under?
I think I'm going to go under. I think he's going to be at 1 sack this week. He's on the he lines up on the left outside linebacker position. He's going against the right tackle. Their right tackle's pretty darn good, Lane Johnson, former Oklahoma player. But their left tackle is not nearly as good. So I think this is an opportunity where Zadarius Smith is going to actually have a much better game.
All right, Dave. Danielle Hunter, 1.5 sacks, over under?
Over.
Over. All right.
It's gonna get hot.
All right. Let's go. I also think it's going to be an over. I think that Jalen Hurts, when he tries to improvise, he could run right into a Danielle Hunter. So I'm down for 2 Danielle Hunter sacks. I don't know if it'll be much more than that, but I'll take it.
He needs to practice his sack celebration with Smith.
It'll be a good time to do it on Monday Night Football.
I thought it looked great.
The next one, it's kind of an all-encompassing one, but the Vikings corners contain A.J. Brown to less than 80 yards. It's kind of yes or no, but over-under. So A.J. Brown over-under 80 yards.
Man, that's tough. I'm going to say under, but I do think that they do throw pretty well this week. I just think Devonta Smith is going to get some share of that as well. He got 0 receptions and 0 yards last week, obviously. And A.J. Brown 8. I think he had like 10 for 155 or something like that. So I'm going to say he comes back down to earth and Devonta Smith comes back to life.
Dave?
I'll agree with Ryan.
Yeah. You said under, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that too. I think the Vikings, not that I don't think he doesn't have a decent game, but I don't think he gets over 80. Last over under here, Adam Thielen, 3.5 receptions. I think he had 3 this past week. Ryan's going over.
We're going to go over. Yeah, we're going over. Sorry.
I'm over too.
We're going to go over. I think he has an opportunity here where he's going to see a little bit more. We're going to see a lot more, I think, coverage on Justin Jefferson this week, as much as they possibly can, and that's going to leave Thielen a lot of opportunity.
And I think it was Kirk or it was Kevin O'Connell that said we need to get Adam Thielen even more involved next week.
Yeah. Off to buy, sell here. Are you buying or selling Kirk's Week 1 performance?
I'm all in. I'm going to buy. Like I said, this is Kirk Cousins. This isn't anything new for us. He plays well. I don't think that we're seeing anything new, so it's not really even a buy. It's just like a maintain. He's a quality player, a quality guy. As long as the scheme is built for him to succeed the way it was last week, he's going to fit that scheme perfectly and do well. So as long as Kevin O'Connell's calling the plays, I think Kirk Cousins is going to do well.
All right, Dave.
You know how I feel about Kirk Cousins, but in this case,
just leaving it at that. All right, buy those stocks of Kirk Cousins here today, Dave. I'm buying it. Are you buying or selling the Vikings defense through one game?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy that one as well. I just think that Ed Donatell is a good defensive coordinator. I think that we weren't even at full strength last week with some of our players hurt, like Andrew Booth, like Lewisine. So we even have more opportunity to come in and do well. I know Booth's not starting, but he is going to be a contributor at some point this year. So, and this is just our first opportunity this year. So I'm all in on buying. Niners sickness, renting. Well, yeah, that's
kudos.
Too.
Kudos.
That's all right.
Dave, Vikings defense, you buying or selling?
I'm buying. It's already looking a heck of a lot better than last year.
All right. I'm buying it too. I'm telling you, I told you we're going to pump positivity on this, and we have nothing but positivity right now. The last buy sell before we get to predictions and get the hell out of here. Kevin O'Connell's game management. Are you buying or selling that through one game?
Yeah, I mean, so I just think he's a smart guy, as we've alluded to earlier, and I just think he's going to really have a good game plan going into every week. He seems like somebody who's very prepared in every situation, it almost seems like. Now, I know he hasn't been given a lot of situations yet, but still, it just seems like he's somebody who's ultra prepared for everything. So I'm going to go ahead and buy that as well.
The comments of renting and holding during this section are cracking me up. If you have any other creative ones, chime them in here. Dave, buying or selling Kevin O'Connell's game management?
So far, I'm buying. There was no mistakes.
Yeah.
Monday or Sunday.
He didn't pull a Nathaniel Hackett, I'll tell you that. So,
no, that was.
I'm gonna buy it too. I was impressed in game one with his decision to go for it on 4th and 1 in the red zone, but then also being able to say, you know what, let's just keep racking up the points. We don't need to push it here, and just taking the field goal. So
he stayed cool and calm the whole game. I was looking to see if he got fired up or went high or went low or yell at people.
Just a lot of fist bumps.
No, he definitely did get fired up on the sidelines. He definitely did.
A lot of fist bumps.
Yeah, I was watching him.
Not that we saw.
The touchdown not on the TV view. Yeah. Yeah, no, he was definitely. I think after that, I think it was after one of the big Justin Jefferson games. He just was like, you could tell he was really excited. So.
That and the sack on Rodgers, he was over there just pumping his fist. So, all right, we can cut the music and head over to predictions here. Like I mentioned, it was a 1-0 sweep across the board last week. Myself, Ryan, Dave, Miles, and the media guest who was Arif Hassan. Let's start with the media guest this week, Dave.
Okay, coming to you live this week, we have Judd Zulgad.
Hey guys, Judd Zulgad of Skol North. Appreciate the opportunity to weigh in. This is going to be a very, very tough game for the Vikings in Philadelphia on Monday night. The victory over Green Bay was very impressive. The offense looked fantastic. The defense was aggressive. Justin Jefferson, in many ways, probably can't be stopped. That being said, in that environment in Philadelphia against an Eagles team that is a good team with a quarterback who can run, I like the Eagles in a very close game. I think the spread of about 1.5 points, probably pretty accurate.
Thanks, Judd.
Thank you, Judd Zulgad. I think when he did that at the time, it was a 1.5 point favorite to Philly, and he's given it to him. So he's obviously picking Philadelphia there. The spread is now 2 points for the Vikings, or for the Eagles on the road. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts for this week? We didn't get Miles's, by the way. I didn't ask him.
We didn't get him last week before. He was too busy drafting his fantasy team.
I talked to him. He had the Vikes.
Oh, did he? Good. Gosh, this is tough because like the like logical side of me is like, all right, we're playing a really tough team, outdoors, away. Just like
It's going to be
On
tough
Monday
to pump
night,
positivity
prime
all
they play on
show.
like a real grass field. Like there's just a lot of just different, and it's a -2, I think, like you said. So Eagles are favored by 2. I'm gonna say Vikings squeak one out. I think I'm gonna go 28-27 Vikings.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. I was
I
about
like
to say, you can't
Motown.
pump positivity the whole show and then, they're going to lose.
You
We're
know,
in on
what's
this.
funny is
We just
that
bought all of these
Motown.
stocks.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Motown just had put up the Vikings win by 10 up in the chat, and I almost picked 31-21, but and then I read it's, for whatever reason Vegas is like never wrong, or like they're always like dangerously close. So I had to get that score a little closer. So 28-27.
All right, Dave.
I'm going with my buddy Niner Sickness. I'm going to take the Vikings
Okay.
28-21.
So I had to go look because it's the East Coast. I feel like sometimes it can be shitty weather out there, especially this time of year. It's trending for, of course, the House of the Dragon trailer popped up here. It's trending for 89 degrees and, that's Monday, 88 degrees and sunny with a wind about 10 miles an hour. So good weather for the Vikings out there
At
in Philadelphia
7:30
on Monday Night
p.m.?
Football. Well, I guess I didn't look at the time, but the day is that. So maybe like in the mid 70s. Wow. I'm torn. I do think it's going to be tough. I think this is a bigger test, honestly, than the Packers was.
I think it's about as big. And we're talking about a team that struggled a little bit against the Detroit Lions.
It's Jalen Hurts that is giving me pause here. I don't know how they're going to do against the scrambling quarterback. And not that he's like actively scrambling, but you know what? I'll do it. The Vikings, I think the Vikings edge out Philly just barely. I think we're talking like game-winning field goal style game. And I think we maybe get a call that's controversial towards the end of the game that puts us in field goal range, just to piss off Philly fans. So if you're a Viking fan going to the Philly game, good luck getting out of there alive because it's going to be brutal.
Oh, and if you are going, do not wear purple.
Yeah,
for your own
I
safety.
was telling a buddy at work. I said if he's going to the game actually, and I said go buy a Donovan McNabb Viking jersey. That way you can be the best of both worlds. But I still think they'd boo the shit out of him.
The booing is not what
but
I'm
that
worried
being
about
said-
for those fans. I'm more worried about the physicality that sometimes it comes with those games. But hope and gosh, you see all these videos on Twitter of all these different fan bases. I hope that our fan base isn't like that. I haven't seen a lot of Vikings stuff happening at our home, but I think I saw one fight live, and I think it was between two Viking fans. So so hopefully we don't have that garbage in our stadium.
I don't think I technically picked a score, by the way, but I'll do 27-24 Vikings sneak one out. That's it. That's all I have for tonight's Vikings Happy Hour show. A special thank you to Ryan and Dave for joining this week, and a really special thank you to Judd Zolgad. So tune in for whoever is the media member next week on predictions. Speaking of next week, I will not be here. Ryan will be the host. To be determined if there's a guest, but Miles will be back, and they will hopefully be breaking down another Vikings victory. So if you're here tonight in the chat or listening to this on the podcast or any streaming application, we are so close to 2,000 followers on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't yet, please head over there, like, subscribe. We're here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. throughout the whole season with lightning rounds, with positivity, maybe not every week with positivity, but most weeks, and Lake Monster beer. So what's better than that? So that's all I have for you tonight. Dave, let us know what the rest of the week looks like.
The rest of the week is myself and Darren on Saturday. We're the official Climb in the Pocket pregame show. We're going to break down and look at things a little bit more in depth. And as the season goes on, gets past weeks 3, 4, 5, 6, the graphics get better, and everybody, all the sources get better on their numbers and predictions, and we'll go from there. We're going to look at how we match up against the Eagles, how we can defeat the Eagles, and possibly how we can even lose against the Eagles. Not that that's going to happen. Then, because the game is on Monday, we have a double header. Prior to the game starting at 6 p.m., we have Tyler Fornes and the Real Forno Show. He will be going hot and heavy into the game as to what to expect. I'm sure he'll have some wagering lines, the last-minute bet stuff to see how the line moved, from 1 point to 2 points to whatever it is. And then we have the game, and then in the final 2 minutes, we have the final score, where we go live at the 2-minute warning. You can join me, possibly Matt.
I'll be there.
And maybe Jason. But we'll see who's all there, and we're going to react, see how the game went. Hopefully it's another celebration just like last Sunday, and we have a blast doing it. That's what's coming up. And until then, we hope you all have a great rest of the week, are blessed, safe, and enjoy great food and great beverage. As always, this is Happy Hour, and we love you watching. Thanks.
Skol Vikes.
Skol Vikes.
Skol Vikings! Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a special shout out goes to our partners, the Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found, and to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody.